Fala galera, vamos falar do vídeo sobre o equilíbrio do PVP, mudança no PVP que vai ter na terceira temporada. Os vídeos dos Devin acabou de lançar aqui. Como você pode ver aqui, eles já vão tirar a umbral do jogo. Não tirar a umbral do jogo, mas os itens que dropar a partir da expansão não, vai já dropar 625, não vai precisar mais de umbral, tá?
All right, welcome to Forged in Eternum, where we talk about all things New World. Today, we have a very special episode of Balance of Power. We are going to be talking not about creating balance, but about breaking balance by introducing a bunch of new stuff in Season 3.
E no caso, como eles disse aqui, eles não vão falar sobre equilíbrio, sim como quebrar o equilíbrio, porque literalmente vai estar um pouco quebrado, porque da mudança de gear, aumento das outras coisas que vai ter durante o vídeo, tá, gente? É muita coisa nova chegando.
A player with over 2,000 hours in New World. Also our product manager, but don't hold that against him.
Mais de 2.000 horas. Foda-se, tenho 7.000.
All right, so let's get into all the big changes coming in Season 3.
Só que ele trabalha, não.
But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the problems we've had and what the sort of goals to fix them are. Drew, you mind kicking us off here?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we had as we played through and we watched players play through the game is right when you hit level 60, there's this extra level, this extra barrier to getting good gear, which is the expertise system. And we decided that it's just not necessary anymore. We're just removing the expertise
Galera,
system.
eles vão tirar o sistema de você ter o PAGS, tá? A expertise. Assim que você chega a level 60, não vai precisar mais upar.
Your gearing by picking up a few rings to be able to get level 600 rings or anything like that anymore. They just drop based on the type of content that you're clearing, and you'll get appropriate item level rewards for that content.
Awesome. What about Umbral upgrading? Any changes there?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the other things is you would get a piece of gear and you would say, "Oh, do I want to invest my Umbral shards in this piece of gear?"
É uma coisa muito bom, tá? Você não precisar porque muito jogador fica perdido nisso daí.
Kind of have this anxiety about spending these Umbral shards that take a
no
lot of
caso
time and effort to earn.
Das Umbral aí, como ele tá dizendo aqui, que eles não estavam gostando do pessoal demorar tanto para subir os itens. Então eles colocou drop de item já tipo 625, pra você não precisar mais das umbral.
Yeah, we drop a lot of items in our game. If you run an expedition, you're probably coming out of that with about 40 to 50 items. So as a player, you're then having to sift through your inventory, figure out what items you want to keep, what you want to sell, and then what you're just going to salvage. It's not a super fun inventory management minigame, so we're not very happy with where that is right now. So with that in mind, we want to give you less loot, but we want that loot to matter more. So what that means is the loot that you do acquire should be higher quality, so it should be more useful for you. That'll come with a new system called loot balancing, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Você sabe, durante as dungeons, você dropa muito item, mas pouco item útil. E eles vão melhorar esse drop para dropar menos item e mais útil. Tá?
And so, in a way, those are chase items, but the reality is they're not 3 perks that you couldn't get in any other combination or crafting or anything like that. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to add new chase items to the game that are really impactful and have unique perks. To that end, we're adding artifacts to the game.
Galera, aqui eles estão explicando que eles vão colocar os artefatos. Esses artefatos serão item fixo que vai ter perk que não vai existir, ou poder que não existe, como você craftar ou dropar, a não ser você pegar esses itens artefatos.
So for the expansion, we want to give players the opportunity to craft gear that means more to them, so they can understand what they're crafting more cleanly.
Oh, Espirra, obrigado pelo subzão, mano, que beijão.
9,99, 999,99,99.
And we're also giving crafters a way to craft exactly the item they want down to every single
Galera, aqui eles estão falando que vão melhorar o craft, tipo, os craft, tá? Que com ele vai ter, os craft vai ter uma vantagem de conseguir craftar item bis, você escolher todos os perks, tá? Então isso daí é muito interessante.
Use rates, we looked at their their effectiveness. We looked at why people were using them in certain circumstances, because just because something wasn't being used a lot doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't useful for players.
Agora estão explicando que vai existir um novo sistema de drop, o famoso loop. Como que você tem chance maior de dropar item que você esteja usando, tipo, você usa arco, full dex. Então você vai dropar mais item com dex e com, tá ligado? E vai ter mais chance de dropar arco, vamos supor. Isso tanto para dungeon e tanto para OPR, drop a partir da expansão, tá, gente? Isso daqui já é para expansão.
This isn't meant to be a long, arduous journey to 65. This is, you're unlocking a bit more power as you play through the game, and people will be 65 pretty quickly.
And do you get anything with those levels in terms of attributes?
Gente, aqui eles estão falando que o do level 60 e 65 a pessoa chegará bem rápido, nem vai sentir, tá apenas fazendo conteúdo normal.
There's actually a few attribute threshold bonuses that you'll be getting that weren't there before. So there's a new one at 350 and there's a new one at 25. And what this means is there's actually a lot more combinations that you can do across your builds to get these attribute threshold bonuses.
Os bônus de atributo vai para 350, não só até 300, e vai ter um bônus novo em 25 também.
Unknown builds right now.
Yeah, I like the combination of having some early ones.
E o seu pontuação total hoje no New World é 500, vai para 600.
To go along with the leveling, Patrick.
Yeah, so we're introducing a new weapon, the flail. And if you're like me, you're going to equip that flail on day one.
Aqui estão falando que introduziram a Magal, uma nova arma, tá, gente?
If you're doing that in the live game right now, you're probably going to a
e a partir de você upar a arma, vai estar 30% mais fácil de upar a arma do 1 ao 20, tá? Eles estão deixando mais fácil também.
Level a weapon from 1 to 20 by roughly 30%.
Eles diminuíram 30%.
Coming on the tail end. So levels 15, 16, 17 and beyond should be a little more smooth and quick, and you should feel that power progression more cleanly.
Awesome. Well, talking about power progression, I think gear is also getting a big upgrade. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're increasing the max gear score up to 700. So right now that max is 625.
A pontuação máxima de equipamentos será 700.
600. Now you can acquire items anywhere from gear score 625 up to 700 in the expansion content.
So they drop naturally all the way up to 700.
They drop naturally all the way to 700. So there's no more upgrading an item to get to that maximum power. Now you get to go and grind go and acquire the exact item that you want at the exact gear score you want.
Quem não comprar a expansão não vai poder jogar nenhum conteúdo da expansão.
Gear score ranges. So really hard Mutation 3 content, for example, will drop 695 to 700, giving you the highest odds at that top end content. Other content will drop at different ranges depending on.
Pra quem não entendeu, gente, vai existir 3 dungeons só. Terá uma super difícil. Essa difícil vai dropar item 695 a 700, tá?
675 to 700 roll at legendary, and the top end of those items will give you more attribute bonus points than other items.
Os itens 675 é lendário até 700, tá?
Awesome. And combined with the level and the gear, approximately how many more attribute points are people going to be getting?
On average, you'll be seeing around 600 attribute points for most players. So about 100 more with the expansion, which should open up a lot of fun avenues for new builds.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into the next topic. So you mentioned something about less loot, but loot that matters more. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the high-level goal is that one sentence. We want to give you less loot that drops, but we want that loot to matter more. How we're planning to accomplish a lot of that is a new system we're calling loot biasing. So me as a player, I tend to use light armor, a spear, and a bow. And right now when I play the game, I'm going to get items that drop that might be completely useless for me. I'll get a heavy gauntlet with focus on it. I'll get a life staff. These aren't items I ever plan to use. When I'm playing the expansion, though, I should be getting items that drop that are more meaningful to me as a player because of the attributes I have, the weapons I use, and the equip weight I'm set at. So I can expect to see more light gauntlets that have dexterity on them, more spears dropping, more bows.
All things that I as a player might use more frequently, or if I'm not personally going to use it, I can probably sell on the trading post. So it's really exciting system for me. The natural question that arises from this is, well, I play multiple builds. How am I going to make sure that what I'm getting from this content is going to help me gear for those different builds? You can easily, as a player, swap your armor loadout to maybe my spear sword build. And then when I open my caches from Outpost Rush or War, now I'm going to have a chance of getting swords out of that. Uma coisa que ele falou, faz de conta, você pode fazer o PR de healer, de tanque, because
Awesome.
A hora que você for abrir suas caixas, você muda para outra build sua, você vai ter mais chance de dropar item daquela build que você acabou de colocar, tá ligado?
How they're being used, how maybe they weren't being used. To that end, some perks are being removed, such as the siphoning perks. They just didn't have a very high acquisition or use rate. Probably too high of an acquisition rate. Definitely too little of a use rate. And so we're removing some perks like that from the game that just aren't seeing use and players don't feel like they're fun. The goal here is when you get an item, you shouldn't say, this item is just not useful because it doesn't have that one perk that makes it useful. To that end, we're removing wards and banes and resilient, and items that you're looking for should just be the perks that you're interested in, not feeling like there's a mandatory perk that you have to have for an item to even be useful. So yeah, we changed a few different perks, as I mentioned, things like some of the weapon mastery perks, so accelerating traps, for example, kind of plays into that fantasy of being like a hunter trapper. So now the traps, not only do they add a speed bonus, but they also add a bleed effect. So you're dealing a little bit of extra damage if something gets close to you.
Aqui, galera, eles estão falando que as armaduras hoje só tem perk defensivo, né? Mas eles não vão colocar só assim. Eles vão colocar perk que aumenta sangramento, dano de fogo, dano elemental. Eles vão colocar perk nas armaduras que aumenta seu dano também, não só perk defensivo, igual nós tem hoje em dia, tá? Isso vai mudar muito, velho.
So we're excited about that, kind of adding a little bit more dynamic perks to the armor sets that help you offensively, not just defensively, and not just kind of like the weapon perks. So there's a little bit more of a combination, a little bit more of a range of things that may appeal to you as a player when you see items start dropping coming soon.
Awesome. And one of my favorite new perks coming, Magnify. Tell me a little bit about how this works.
Yeah, so one of the things is maybe you have a really good weapon that just has 30 con on it or something, and you want to use it in certain sets, but you can't because it ends up throwing off your attributes a little bit. Well, Magnify helps solve that problem. It just magnifies whatever your highest attribute is. So if your entire strength set is a strength set, now it's going to add 30 strength as opposed to adding 30 con previously. But if you swap over to a tanking set and you still want to use that item, now it gives you 30 con because that's what you're spec'd into the most.
We feel aqui like tá falando que vai existir uma coisa que você vai colocar nas armas, que ela vai mudar o atributo para igual você tiver maior, tá ligado? Se você tiver mais força, a arma vira de força. Se não tiver, se você tiver mais con, ela vira de con.
Well, let's dive into probably one of my favorite features coming in the expansion. Tell me about artifacts, Patrick.
Yeah, artifacts are awesome. They are gear score 700 playstyle build-defining objects you can acquire in the world. So we have a whole set of artifacts coming with the expansion, and you can find these on named enemies in the open world, out of dungeons, the PvP reward track. All sorts of content will be vectors for these artifacts to drop. When you get an artifact, it's a unique one-off item, so it has a unique perk on it that will not exist on any other item in the game.
Galera, os itens
so one example, my personal favorite is called Scorpion Sting. It is a spear that has Javelin as a perk, but that Javelin doesn't push the enemy away.
Benefício, os itens artefato, uma skill a mais, tá ligado? Podemos dizer assim.
When you get Scorpion Sting, you're going to go and you're going to see that it has a bunch of perks on it that are locked behind a quest. So when you equip the spear, you're going to see your HUD change to show the objectives that you need to complete to unlock those perks. As you complete those objectives, it might say go kill Thorpe in the depths, for example. You're going to kill Thorpe, and then immediately that perk is going to unlock, and you're going to have that artifact be slightly more powerful. Eventually, you'll have unlocked every perk on the artifact, and it's going to be a really, really powerful item that you're going to want to make sure you have equipped. So you can have 3 of them equipped at a time, 1 weapon, 1 armor piece, and 1 jewelry piece. And hopefully they should really change the way you're playing the game.
Awesome.
And 1 jewelry piece. And hopefully they should really change the way you're playing
the game. Os artefatos, gente, você vai poder ter 3 equipados, tá?
There's a lot of
uma joia, uma arma e um peitinho. E uma parte de set, não precisa ser peito, né?
That you're probably going to want to pick up. It's a tower shield. It dramatically increases your ability to block. It has like an enhanced sturdy blocking. It has 25% less damage from elemental attacks, obviously super huge. But all things that are good need a little bit of a trade-off. You're not going to be able to dodge with this thing. It's just too powerful to be able to move and dodge at the same time. So it'll be something that it will change your playstyle as a player, but it should lean into kind of your class fantasy, your way you want to play the game in a lot of different ways.
It's awesome. My favorite probably is the Abyss. It's a great axe that actually scales off int rather than strength, so it allows you to try new builds, and all the damage is void damage, so it's pretty cool. All right, let's jump into crafting, Patrick. What are some of the changes coming with crafting?
Yeah, so as we mentioned a little bit earlier, crafters right now have this paradigm that we don't love, where you're rolling on a pretty wide range of gear scores, so it makes getting the item you want to craft pretty hard to do. So the first big change you're making is gear score is now a fixed value when you craft. You know exactly the gear score you're going to output. So when you have all of your buffs equipped, all of your food taken, town buff is up, you know that you're going to craft an item at a specific gear score, and then you can still roll on those perks depending on the what attribute mod you throw in there, what perk mod you throw in there, etc. But we're also giving players a way to guarantee a gear score 700 with a new item called the Azoth Inductor. The Azoth Inductor will give you a bonus to gear
Aqui
score.
Os crafters vão poder garantir item com pontuação 700, tá, gente?
But wait, there's more. We're also adding an item called the Prismatic Scarab. This will let you on a
e depois vai adicionar escraveiro prismático, tá?
The attribute type, every single perk on the item, and output basically the item of your dreams. And it should allow players to create best-in-slot items a lot more cheaply than they can in the current game.
And another change is now you can use both at the same time, right, to guarantee the gear score.
Correct. You can couple that Prismatic Scarab with the Azoth Inductor to craft that perfect gear score 700 item.
It's awesome. Hey, well, thanks for joining me today to sort of give an overview of the big changes coming in the expansion. I hope you all enjoyed the segment. Please like and subscribe if you did. We have a community question. We love your feedback on the upcoming changes. What changes are you most excited about? And is there any change that you perhaps didn't hear us mention that you wished? Let us know, and we'll see you in Eternum.
O próximo, segunda-feira, vai ser Sombra e a Montaria. É isso.